Coming up on The Whitney Reynolds Show.
We had just been given the green light to start marching when I heard my staffer yell, "Gunshot, gunshot."
Can you tell a difference when she's around the animals?
She was laughing and smiling. Being able to come out and play with the animals was very helpful for her.
We felt that it was important to represent as many people as possible.
Today we are talking hope and healing and discovering if the two can coexist while trying to improve the future. It was a day that impacted a community forever. Hope was extremely hard to find, and it was uncertain if healing would even be possible.
We were at the parade, actually standing right about here when the gunshots went off. A lot of uncertainty, and then right away when the second round of shots rang out, we knew right away there was gunshots, and people started running, and it was very scary.
I was on my way, I got a text that said, "Do not come, turn on your television," and the kids, the bands are all either hunkered down at the hotel or they're under the bleachers.
We had just been given the green light to literally start marching when I heard my staffer yell, "Gunshot, gunshot."
July 4th was tragic, and we knew that transformation needed to take part. And immediately the community came together, and people really from all over the world came together to share and start the healing process.
In the days and weeks after the shooting, our community has come together on a number of occasions with vigils, with concerts, at religious sites.
I am so devastated by all of the violence. I am so devastated by all of the mental illness that has been let out in our communities.
There's healing involved for us and our children to come out and just realize that we can have a normal night with music and laughter and kids enjoying and dogs and families. That's really what it's all about, and getting back to some sense of normalcy in Highland Park, even after such a tragic event.
And I just want you guys to know that I'm here with you. If you need me, I'll be here with you. And maybe we can accomplish something that'll be a miracle while I'm alive. Thank you so much.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We just watched that powerful piece. Tell me, what was it like being there for you on the scene of a national tragedy?
It was very difficult. I was there with my wife and kids, and there were a lot of stressors whenever you're about to march in a parade. So I was very focused on, getting the family together, making sure everyone had T-shirts and water, and the car was in the right place. And then the next thing I know, my campaign manager is yelling, "Gunshot, gunshots." And my children were right behind me. And so instinctively went to dad mode and put my hands right behind me to touch and feel where my children were and tried to sort through what was happening.
Oh my goodness. In that moment of going into dad mode, what were your thoughts?
So I was seeing hundreds of people running. I was seeing police cars flying down the street, and I had to process that very quickly. So the first thing I did, of course, was really make sure my wife and my kids and my volunteers, we were all safe, and we moved into a nearby building. And then I told my wife that I have to go help once I knew my kids were okay. and I ran to the scene. And even though through all that, the brain wasn't really processing what was happening.
So did you hear the rounds being fired?
You know, I don't think so. There were a lot of noises at that point. I was about 2 blocks away. So I didn't really hear what was actually happening on the sound until later when I saw a video of the scene. And I was in a room with a lot of elected officials, including Senator Tammy Duckworth. And I played it on my phone, and she was talking to someone else and stopped and turned towards me and said, you know, Bob, the last time I heard that sound was in Iraq.
You live in a suburb that you feel like is very safe, and then any of our viewers, we feel like we have our safety net that can all be shaken. Do you feel like our system failed us?
I don't feel that way in the sense that we had law enforcement right there. We had a lot of security precautions. Right. We had a lot of preparation for the event. And if anything, I think what I see is the system failed, and that clearly the alleged shooter, somebody who was in a lot of trouble, had a lot of issues, was able to access this really deadly weapon. What could we have done to stop that? How do you ever stop somebody who really wants to cause harm to somebody?
How do we prevent this from happening again when it comes to this type of gun?
So a few weeks after the shooting, in the House, I was named to be in charge of the gun reform and the gun safety measures in Illinois with our House of Representatives. And so ever since then, multiple times a week, we're having regular meetings with my colleagues to talk about what are the laws that we can pass really to make it safer for everybody and to make it less likely that this happens again in any other part of our state. So we're working on it.
So how is your community healing?
Everyone is dealing with it in different ways. We have people who on a daily basis are going to the location of the shooting and to our nearby memorials, people who still, for any number of reasons, can't drive downtown Highland Park. They need to avoid it. We have students who are back in school who really struggle when the bus goes past the point of the shooting. So we're working on making sure there's supports for everybody, and we're, as a community, the city is doing a remarkable job making sure the resources are there, and we're trying to address the ways that people are dealing with this in different manners. And so some people want to be around other people. The city is always going to have at least one memorial for people to attend, and it frankly has provided so much comfort for so many people.
Wow, and you do feel hope even out of this tragic situation.
I feel a tremendous amount of hope. Our community was already pretty tight and strong, united together, and this shared experience, what is just consistent is everybody wants to be there to help. Again, that takes different forms, and in different ways people want to be involved or not involved, but our community is really united together going through this really difficult time.
Highland Park Strong, what does that mean to you?
It means something really personal. I know we use it as a catchphrase, and if you weren't there or you're not from Highland Park, I see it as really the community uniting in literally the most impossible circumstances and coming together to help each other. And that's why I'm hopeful for the future.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Let's see it. At 13 years old and born with a rare condition, nothing is going to stop Angelina from feeling like a superhero. What is usually a normal trip to the hospital has become a day of hope, healing, and joy, thanks to some four-legged friends from Maine in Heaven. They are a nonprofit organization whose goal is using miniature horses to brighten up the days of folks who need it the most. The small size of the horses makes them great for petting and walking, but it is also bringing hope to everyone around them as they push through these difficult moments.
My daughter was born with Joubert syndrome. It's a rare genetic disorder that affects her cerebellum. She had a heart defect when she was born, a cleft lip and palate. The brain malformation caused her to have developmental delays and stuff like that. So, we've been here this is our third week in a row. We've been kind of in these hospital rooms pushing her through therapies, rehab therapies for hip surgery she just got done having. So trying to get her back on her feet, it's been pretty difficult for her. So to be able to get out and just enjoy some things.
Can you tell a difference when she's around the animals, that she just feels lighter or happier?
Yeah, absolutely. She feels engaged. She was laughing and smiling, being able to come out and play with the animals was very helpful for her.
From a parent standpoint, seeing your daughter happy, what is that like for you?
It's definitely helps me push through this because it's been pretty hard for me to be here for the last 2.5 weeks now. So, you know, to just see her happy and pushing through and enjoying herself is very helpful.
While her ability to verbally talk is limited, that did not stop Angelina from expressing the joy she found in today.
The baby horses were so cute, and I feel happy about that. I mean, look how little they were.
I kind of say it's three-pronged. They're definitely there for the patients. The kids love them, it brings their spirits up, but I think it helps the parents too. Parents go through so much when their kids are sick, and then to have a horse walk in, and to be able to see their child smile. I know when kids are trying to walk, when they walk with hope, it just gives them that hope, that confidence, and it's inspiring.
No matter the age, the horses can bring hope and healing to everyone they meet. Destiny visits the hospital for routine therapy due to pain in her hip and legs, something she can take her mind off of with the horses by her side.
When you come to the hospital, why do the horses help?
Cause I think like when you walk in them, it kind of like feels like you in therapy too, cause like you're walking too. Sometimes you might just be walking, you might realize.
She listens to the kids, and I think it builds confidence with the kids.
Absolutely.
And confidence and kind of that teamwork.
Well, Hope, thank you for all you do.
She brings a lot of happiness to people.
And from ponies blazing a trail to a movie that is blazing another trail. This is showing us how far we have come for our LGBT community. Let's take a look.
There has been immense progress since I first started covering the LGBT community in 1984, mainly known as the gay community back then, especially in the cultural space in terms of representation in mainstream media, mainstream movies. They were usually pretty tragic stories, but you still tried to find yourself. And what's amazing since then is not only the vast number of LGBTQ characters, but those played by LGBTQ people, and also the diversity of that.
One of the films that has helped push for more of this representation is the movie Bros. We sat down with Billy Eichner and discovered how this movie has brought hope to his community.
We felt that it was important to represent as many people as possible, and I wanted LGBTQ people to see themselves on the big screen, not in a tragic way. We always get these stories about the tragedy of being LGBTQ, the suffering, the closet, and those are very important stories to tell, but we lead very joyful lives, and we have for a while now, even with all the challenges that are of course part of our history and part of our lives, but we're funny and we fall in love and we fall out of love, and we're dealing with love and dating and sex and romance the way that everyone is. And so it was important for us to represent all of that.
Bros is one of the first movies to blaze this path as a romantic comedy by a major studio, and also by the entire main cast of LGBTQ actors.
We wanted to take this as an opportunity to just introduce the world to so many really funny LGBTQ comedians and comic actors who haven't gotten an opportunity to be in a big Judd Apatow comedy. We felt that it was important to represent as many people as possible.
I don't know if people that come from non-marginalized spaces could even grasp how weird it would be to never see yourself represented in a holistic way on screen. You know, we shouldn't need outside validation, but because so many LGBTQ people don't get that validation in their own families, seeing it from the outside world is even more important. I think Bros is another in a long line of things that have shown progress for our movement.
And progress forward can bring healing to the past.
I survived. I adapted. I learned how to take my skills, be myself, not ask for pity, and not ask for the pain. Look, listen, and learn. Look at the world today. Hate is up, love is down. A man says peace, and we attack his character. But we hail a man who wages war on the land because they believe differently than he does.
Surviving through one of the most difficult situations, Ralph, who is now known as BC the Clown, was once homeless. And despite his challenging circumstances, he was able to turn his life around and is now an author and a poet. It was during this time of need that he found hope.
Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having us.
We're talking hope and healing, and both of you have encountered these two words in a little bit different ways, but for the same cause. BC, tell us a little bit about your story.
I've learned that being homeless doesn't mean it's over. It means that, like, sometimes it's the beginning. The only hope that we have is other people. Like, if we don't have other humans that care about us or care what we're going through, it doesn't matter. The scariest part about being homeless is it could happen to you, to you, to you. And how do you deal with that? Like, how do you talk to somebody that's like, oh, well, you know, you smell. Well, maybe they need a shower.
BC found hope through his personal interaction with Shiloh Capone of Street Samaritans. Now, they are a nonprofit organization that focuses on supporting the unhoused and impoverished communities. This organization hits the streets to help bring hope and healing to those in need by connecting them with resources such as food, clothing, and other essentials. It was this foundation that helped BC's healing process begin, while also building a friendship with Shiloh, who he now considers family.
And Street Samaritans is actually how you both became friends. And BC, before we started rolling, you actually called Shiloh family.
Good.
During COVID, I was working for a healthcare system. It was like a few months later, it was like a pandemic. And I was like, what a time to work in healthcare. Super bizarre, but I did what I think everyone did, which was start thinking about ways to change myself or improve myself. Like, how am I gonna use this to better myself? I knew I wanted to be in the nonprofit field. It's where I've always been. So Street Samaritans is a nonprofit organization that is dedicated to intervening in the cycle of homelessness and poverty by connecting people to solutions and walking with them on their journey. Going out on the streets, we are finding people that are experiencing unsheltered street homelessness, and we are meeting their needs physically, socially, and emotionally. So we're giving them clothing, food, hygiene products, other living essentials, but more important than that, we're giving them human connection. I think healing begins for the unhoused in the same way it begins for us, which is relationships. Those build self-confidence, they build dignity, and they become the foundations for a journey of personal change. And then we're helping them overcome obstacles that they might have, such as connecting them with transportation, helping them fill out paperwork that can be very difficult. And then we're walking with them on that journey.
She actually cared about people like me. And I wasn't like one of those people like them. Like, I wasn't stinky and all the scary things that everybody thinks.
According to Street Samaritans, the homeless population is reaching past 500,000 in the United States. They also note that in the case of BC and many others they meet, looking past the current environment and seeing people for exactly who they are can truly bring hope in hard times.
Sometimes when people see someone that is experiencing homelessness, there's this sense of like, the problems are so big. Okay, so I'm not gonna be able to house this person or feed them, or what can I do? See and acknowledge the person that they are and create space.
So going back to hope, what was the hope that you found through Street Samaritans?
They were listening. It was listening. Like, you know how I met them? I was on Michigan Avenue. They were giving me sandwiches and socks, and I was invited to speak my mind. I felt like the whole room warmed up to what I was saying, because I was like, hey, listen, it's not just about socks. It's about transitional. Like, some people that are homeless don't even know what it's like to live in a house.
After being given a voice and a seat at the table, BC was able to grow as a person and take his love of poetry and put it to paper by writing his first book. This once seemed impossible, but it's now his reality.
You inspire me as much as you think I inspire you.
I love that. And you, on this inspirational journey, have actually become an author. Your poetry that we just heard.
If you even read the foreword of my book, I started out going, I had no intentions of writing a book. I had no idea that I could be a writer. And I had people say, oh, well, that seems cool, but you should write that. Yeah. So I'm an example of growing.
Do you think that because of the connection that you found when you were at a time of need, this is what's helped you blossom?
Even more so, yes. And every time I walk downtown and I see somebody that seems unhelpable, I think we have a way we can. I think that, like, there's a way to deal with everyone on the planet. I think we should have this love for each other.
It was having a strong personal connection despite the circumstance that gave hope and inspiration not only to BC, but also Shiloh, and has become a lasting memory for them to lift their spirits and encourage others.
Do you remember the time I came and I sat out there with you? And how many people tried to avoid eye contact with you? They weren't seeing you for who you were. They have this image in their head and they're making a judgment about what somebody
But
who
you
is
got to see
experiencing
the
homelessness
beautiful
is going
people
through.
that smiled at me when they walked past
And they
me.
make all the difference, right? Those moments are transformational and they can make your day so much better. And that's something that every single human being watching the show and on Earth could do to make not only the world a better place, but to help people that are experiencing homelessness.
And now to a familiar story, one we shared with you in the fall of 2022.
You're going to get money or whatever, but as a lawyer, as a person, as a human being, you've got to try and make life better for yourself, others. It makes you love what you do. This young man, Martell Williams, very good kid, 15. He's a basketball player, he's in school, he's doing well in school. All of a sudden, he's in class and he's getting arrested. And get this poor kid to confess to a crime he didn't even commit. He was playing basketball at the time it happened. When I asked him, what are your goals, what are your aspirations? And he goes, you know, I'd love to be a teacher.
We're so glad to have you on set with us. Kevin, tell us what you're doing.
And with my firm, the O'Connor Law Firm, we're going to start that process for him and have a check for $2,500 to start for you to college.
That was a tearjerker. What an amazing thing you have done for that young man. Tell us, why do you do stuff like that? I mean, you have so many different cases that you just could move on to the next and be done, but you decide to create change.
So as a lawyer, you know, why did we get into this? What's the reason that you wanted to become a lawyer? And all of us, I would hope, when we started, said, we want to make a change. We want to make a difference in life. That's why you wanted to become a lawyer. That's why I wanted to become a lawyer. You slowly kind of get, in the first couple of years, you think, oh my God, I'm not going to ever make a change in anything. But if you stick at it, if you really work at it, over time, you'll find that case or two where you can make a change in someone's life.
Do you remember that first one for you that you said, oh my goodness, I can actually create positivity out of something tragic that's happened?
I did, and there was a couple. I mean, there was one, and I'll still never forget it. I traveled all around the country to uncover and look around what caused something behind a case, and just to not let them get away with it, right? It was really made a change so that other people in the community knew that they wouldn't get away with it too. And it kind of just leads to say, you better watch out because somebody will uncover what you think, you know, you got away with.
So we're talking hope and healing on this show. And one thing that we found hard when we were producing it is a lot of the stuff we were talking about was sensitive, tragic, sad. But how do you find hope in that and then start to heal? I would say you're almost an expert at that because when you meet people, they've either lost a loved one, they are in the throes of it. How do you greet them with the hope aspect and then also the healing?
You've got to get people to redirect what they're doing because most of the people you meet have faith and things happen for a reason. They don't want whether it's their loved one, their child, whatever, to die in vain. It's the common theme you hear. And you tell them to use sometimes their anger, sometimes their grief, use it for a positive way to try and make a change in the community so it doesn't happen to another family, doesn't happen to another child. And it really gives them hope and inspiration that they can use the tragedy of their own child to make a difference in the world.
And when they do that, do you see that healing? That's really like the first step to healing.
It's the first, second, and third step because then they feel like their child or their loved one is still alive and still making a difference in this world.
Tell us, where would be a starting point for our viewers to make their mark?
There's so many opportunities to volunteer. So within groups and communities, we need accountability. We need groups that will oversight and take a look. And if you have extra time, I mean, a lot of us don't, but if you have extra time, give that extra time to donate your time back to the community. Some of these organizations that are trying to make a positive change, where they're volunteer positions, and you can really go to the various municipalities, whether it's a corporation, whatever, and get them to hear the stories of these people that they hear. And once they hear it, usually the human aspect comes out and people want to change. But until they hear it firsthand from people, they're not going to want to make that change.
One thing I love that you've said in this interview is that we're all human. There's a human aspect, and you also see people wanting to really move the dial forward.
You got to have faith and hope in people, and that everybody out there has good in them. And you just need to find it, and you need to give them a reason to spark it within them to bring it forward. So a lot of times people get caught up in their day-to-day activities. They're too busy in work, too busy at life, and the good kind of gets suppressed because they're just on a mission to finish what they're doing. And they got to just slow down, think about what they're doing, and get back on the right track. And hopefully the people around them can, with a smile, with something, can say, hey, we need your help. And then they can do it.
My goodness. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
And thank you for having me.
When I was producing this show, I thought to myself, hope. A lot of the stuff we're talking about is some really tough stuff. And healing, that can be even harder. But I truly believe in that moment, I was at the intersection of today's topic. And both might actually need each other. Remember, your story matters. Whether you want more behind the scenes or the whole interview, make sure not to miss one episode of The Whitney Reynolds Show. Here's what's coming up. Little do you know that you helped smuggle a lover out of prison.
That's right, out of a medium custody prison, a maximum security prison too. And, you know, he came up with this idea. He said, you know, I could hide in your van when you come in to do a dog adoption. And I said, well, now that idea would probably work. I was on America's Most Wanted. But even that, even with all the media attention this case was getting, nobody ever looked twice at us.
I would love for there to be no shame or no stigma against people who are born in a chaotic and traumatic lifestyle. And I think only by talking about it do you get rid of that shame.
I saw the airplane just so fast, very loud. 2 words to us, to me. Then I turned my head and I looked up the sky and I saw 4 bombs.
When you're asked to kind of come in and inspire people, you don't realize how much they inspire you. And as I'm looking out and seeing these thousands of people at 4 o'clock in the morning, all committed to doing something so great for themselves, I just felt so inspired to be there. Like, I knew I wanted to be an Olympic champion when I was 9.
At 9?
Yep, at 9 years old.
And did you tell people that?
Yeah, for a class assignment, I wrote I'd be an Olympic champion. That was the goal at 9. But I would say my family support and my family, they were the ones that really inspired me to be great. My dad told me since I was 7, he's like, you're gonna be an Olympic champion, you're gonna be an Olympic champion. And I think by the time I was 16, I believed him. And then I believed in myself. And so, you know, I would say my family, they definitely inspired me and motivated me to be the best in the world.
You're in college, you're on the height of your career, and then you think you're probably going to go right into the NBA, right?
It was just a lot of self-perseverance, you know, kind of having the vision of where I wanted to be and just put my head down and go to work.
Is that what it was, putting your head down and going to
Yeah,
work?
it's just staying really focused, really present, you know, trying to be wherever my feet were. And just work hard and give myself the opportunity.